Hello, everyone, and welcome. We've got a very special guest tonight, ShuuyiW. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me for this interview.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk Starcraft with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, just for people who are living under a rock, don't know you, haven't heard of you, just kind of briefly describe yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I played Starcraft since 2013, and then I took a break in the last 4 years just to finish up optometry school, and finally graduated last year.
Hmm.
So now I'm a full-time optometrist, and in the evenings I'm grinding the ladder, trying really hard to make masters, which has been my goal for a long time. And I started streaming because why not make some friends along the way? And the community is great. People are really friendly for the most part, and everything is just really nice getting to know people and just sharing the same memes about because Starcraft is such a small community and like it's so niche. Like chances are you talk to some random person, they have no idea what you're talking about and they think you're a super nerd. So the community is small, but it's tight and it's really great to be part of it. So I just try hard ladder, but I like to make friends along the way, and that's kind of what my stream is all about.
Yeah, very cool. That's like a really excellent encapsulation of it, I feel. So how did you first get into StarCraft? It sounds like you've kind of been playing for a while, but then sort of had to take this break.
Yeah, so funny story. So I was a kid. I was like 8 years old when I first saw my dad playing Command and Conquer Red Alert 2. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever how he would like control these units around and they would follow him and call him commander and boss and stuff. And I was like, wow, I want in on that. So
Yeah,
I beat
yeah.
the campaign a few times and that was just super addicting. And as an adult, I was like, what I missed? That one game that just really inspired a lot of energy. Like nothing else really made me feel that way like that game. And I was talking to a friend and he was like, "Well, if you like real time strategy, you should play StarCraft." And it was kind of I think it was grade 12 in high school when I bought the game. And
Hmm.
yeah, that was a dangerous time because when I started playing, I could not stop. It was very addicting and just the amount of like how steep the skill curve, the learning curve is. I
Yeah,
find
yeah.
that's what makes it so rewarding because it feels like you can never be as good at the game as you want to be, and that to me is really rewarding. I think a lot of people when they play a game, they want it to be challenging and they want to see that they're getting better. And StarCraft, I feel like, is the ultimate difficult video game where the sky's the limit. Like you can never be like 100%. So I think that's why it's so addicting because you watch these players play so impressively and you want to be like them and sometimes you watch like Maru micro and you're like wow I wish I could micro like that one day but it's just a fantasy so
Right.
I think it's just incredible like how high the skill ceiling is and just watching yourself improve is really rewarding too so I don't remember what the question is but I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, tangents are great. Yeah, never feel like, as we're chatting that you have to stop yourself from going on a tangent. That's generally speaking, those are the bits that people remember and like. So we want all that stuff. Yeah,
So
the original question was just about how you got into StarCraft, and it sounds like you kind of had this sort of intro to the RTS genre with your dad and playing some CNC, and then you kind of on recommendation of a friend checked out StarCraft, right?
yeah that sounds about right.
Excuse me, sorry. So was your dad kind of your intro to video games, like in general in your life, like before Command and Conquer,
um
or
I don't think he really played any other video games. Like
huh?
honestly, besides Command and Conquer, I don't play a lot of other games. Like I played Neopets up until very recently,
Yeah, yeah.
and I mean very recently. Like until I restarted playing StarCraft again, 4 months ago. Like I was, it just gave me something to do. Like I know Neopets. It's just like one of those games where you hoard money and there's like an economy and everything. But
Hmm.
now that I'm deep into StarCraft again, I don't think I'm gonna play Neopets as much. But
Sure,
yeah, no,
yeah.
I don't think my dad really played anything else. And strangely enough, he's always telling me not to play too many games now, even though I graduated and have a job. And he's like, "Oh, don't just let your brain rot. Like, go skiing or something." I'm like, "I don't want to. I just
That's
want to
so
play
funny.
StarCraft."
Oh gosh, that's really funny. So you kind of mentioned that you came back to the game around 4 months ago. Is that when you decided to start streaming, or did they not coincide in that way?
No, I actually streamed briefly on and off in the past.
Hmm.
Um, right before I started optometry school, I think I streamed for like 2 months,
Hmm.
and then I had to start optometry school. So I just quit the game cold turkey, and that was really
Totally.
depressing for me, actually. I don't think anybody truly understood. Like, I tried to convey to my friends how big of a deal that was to have to stop playing. Um, and I think they can kind of like imagine based on how depressed I was acting, but I don't think anybody in optometry school truly could understand what I was going through.
Yeah.
And once I graduated, I was like, well, I live in the middle of nowhere now. There's a pandemic, so perfect time to start playing Starcraft again.
Yeah, totally. Very cool. So you kind of almost had sort of built things up a little bit in terms of, I'm sure, your playing skill, but also your stream, and then you had to kind of step away. Did it come back easily for you? Like, was it, just like snapping right back to where you were, both on the skill side and the streaming side? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, so my we'll start with streaming because there's not too much to talk about there.
Mm.
It never really kicked off. Sometimes I just had like fluctuations in viewer numbers. Sometimes I would have like 50. One time the Muslim hosted me and I had 1,000, but then I would usually
Wow.
have like five.
Hmm.
So I streamed for like a month or two, so it never really got anywhere. Like somehow I managed to get I think 400 followers.
Yeah.
But as a girl, I think people are interested because not a lot of girls play StarCraft, so you just
Mm.
naturally get more views.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, so yeah, that didn't really go anywhere, and I think it really started picking up recently. Now that I have time to socialize in the community and stream regularly and actually have a decent setup.
Yeah.
In terms of the game, I think in the past, the highest level I've achieved was around Diamond 2.
Hmm.
And at that point, I don't think they even had the divisions within Diamond, so it was
Mm.
just Diamond.
Sure.
Um, but I know for a fact that right now I'm playing better than I ever have. Like I don't use F2 as much, and I actually send out scouting marines, and I just can tell that I know how to play mech. So for sure, right now I'm playing the best that I ever have, and I think that's really encouraging. That I have the time, I'm putting in the effort, and I'm watching myself improve.
Hmm.
Um, so when I first started, I think my MMR in the past was 4K, but back then it was a lot. No, it wasn't that much. I think 4K back then was like 3.5K now.
Oh,
And
wow.
then so
Okay.
when I restarted playing 4 months ago, I think I dropped down to like 3.4K because I was just like, wow, what is the meta? Like, how do you use
Mm.
Legacy of the
Yep.
Void units? What's going on? Why am I getting proxy void rated? And so I was just trying to figure things out, and then steadily I climbed back to 3.6, and then now I'm at 3.8. So yeah, I think just like working on the basics and watching myself get better, and it's really encouraging.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been on the receiving end of your increasing skill in tournament play recently, so I can attest to this.
It was a
Um,
close series in your defense.
it's funny. It's funny that you say that because it didn't feel close on my end of it. I was kind of just like, wow, all right, well, good luck then.
No, it was close. I was sweating, my heart was pounding. I was like, this could go either way. I was seriously so intense about those matches.
That's funny. Well, kind of you to say, certainly. I
I
guess
mean, it was the honest truth.
speaking in terms of nitty gritty, for a moment, a little bit, we've kind of been, joking about tournaments and different builds and stuff, so it kind of makes it come to mind for me. Do you have sort of a best and worst matchup, or a favorite and least favorite?
Um, well, right now my win rates are about even, but just as a gut instinct, I think I'm definitely more terrified of TVP than anything else.
Mm,
Just because there's so many ways they can cheese you, and
yeah.
if you just ask the random Terran, I feel like 99% their worst matchup is can be TVP. So that's just a common thing. But I've been practicing it a lot lately, and I definitely feel more confident about it now. And my win rates are pretty even across all the races. So I think I have a lot of basics to work on right now. And once I get at a higher level, then things could change. So I know
Yeah.
what I need to work on right now. So just gotta put in the time and effort.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So what is sort of your overall kind of training philosophy? I can kind of guess at it from some of the things that you've said, but maybe your own statement would, best kind of sell that?
Yeah, so well, I mean, StarCraft I feel like is probably the most difficult video game in terms of like how cognitively demanding it is and
Hmm.
how much multitasking you have to do and still have to at every second think of the bigger picture. So there's so many ways you can improve, but the overall, I guess, important thing is to remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And
Hmm.
even though like you may win a game 10 times in a row or lose a game 20 times in a row, like you gotta always look at the bigger picture.
Mm.
So metacognition is really important. You gotta know, why am I losing? Like, I need to stop. Or, like, you got to really watch your replays and see if there's anything consistent. Or sometimes if you don't know what you're doing wrong, that's where other people can help and watch your replays and give some advice on where
Hmm.
you could be going wrong. And as long as you have the general attitude of, well, I can always be better and I know that I can be, there's not anything that's physically limiting me. I think that's a really big thing that I have doubted in the past when I was playing. When I first started, I was playing ranked for fun. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't think I'll actually get anywhere. But
Yeah.
then I messed around a bunch, and then I got promoted to silver, and I was like, what? I don't. I'm not even doing anything that makes sense. And then so like when I got to gold, I was like, okay, maybe I can actually get somewhere with this.
Hmm.
And then when I got stuck in diamond for the longest time, I was just kind of discouraged, just like, oh my god, what am I doing wrong? And then at some point I was thinking like, is my reaction time too slow? Is there something innately wrong with me that is preventing me from ever reaching masters?
Hmm.
But recently, and I've talked to people who are more experienced in the game. For example, Sappho from NSGSL, who's my main coach in the game.
Hmm.
Really appreciate her, by the way. Shout out to Sappho. Um, she she's told me a lot about like the statistics and how the game is. And even today we were talking,
Hmm.
um, and because we've joked a lot about what it takes to get to masters, and some people like me who have doubted, like I've doubted myself in the past, they're doubting themselves and saying, well, I'm too old to ever make masters or get better at this game, or
Right.
I suck at this game. I'll never get good at it. And then Sappho was in that conversation and she was like, no, you can literally be like 75 years old and still make or like she didn't say that exactly, but something along those lines. Like if you have a pulse, you can make masters, or it's just something that blew my mind. And I was like,
Yeah.
are you serious? Like to me, making masters is like the biggest accomplishment ever, and
Hmm.
you're like a total pro at the game basically. And then, but slowly, I feel like my view on that is changing, and I feel like if you I'm more in agreement in agreement with her that yeah, like if there's nothing physically holding you back and you're always willing to improve at the game, why would there be anything that's limiting you from reaching that goal, right? And
Hmm.
I was asking her about it today, and let me try to think word for word what she said.
Yeah, sure.
What was it? If you can type 45 words per minute, and if you can memorize a recipe, then you can make masters. So I was like, well, that's setting the bar pretty low, and I've been trying really hard, and I like to think my abilities are a little bit higher than that. And
Hmm.
yeah, I still haven't made it after all these years, but
I'm
no,
right
it's
there with
definitely
you.
encouraging.
Yeah,
It's
it's
encouraging to hear her say stuff like that, though.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like having someone like that who can be in your corner and kind of pump you up, right? Obviously, that's that strikes me as a very Sappho line, right? That quote. And I on the other hand, I feel like, gosh, I'm really out here struggling my hardest, and I'm still in diamond, but
Yeah, same.
but I think that there is a lot to be said for having somebody in your corner like that, being like, no, you can do it. Don't get discouraged. Don't quit. Like, don't set your own expectations so low. Because I feel like I do that a little bit, where it's like you almost, y- I guess by being as hyped as you and I both are about like, oh, maybe I could be masters one day, it almost makes it seem further away than it probably really is. So yeah, that's really cool that you kind of have that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't overstate the importance of positivity and a mentor kind of role, because I think everyone has like a different learning style, but I know for a fact that I don't do well with like harsh leadership or harsh, people who are teachers or people in a power position. So having her positive attitude and she'll always, whenever we're practicing, she'll always like pick out something good that I did in addition to things that could be worked on, and she's never like super harsh about it. And I've had coaches that were like kind of scary and only focused on the negative,
Mm,
which at a diamond level we're already better than 75 to 85% of the players, so
right. Yeah.
you got to give yourself credit where it's due. And I find a lot of people in the community are like super hypercritical of everybody, even pro players. Like they'll say, well, if you're under 6K, like you just need to macro. And if you're, what else do they say? Just crazy things like, oh, you're in diamond and you think you're good. Like, who do you think you are? And I'm
Right.
like, diamond is good. Like, chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
statistically good. So I'm all about the positive mindset, and I think it's really important to have somebody who you can ask questions and kind of look up to for answers in the game who is similarly positive about things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds like you have a really good sort of coach-student relationship there. I'm curious along these lines, we're kind of talking about, how you think about the game and how you think about learning. What sort of style of player do you consider yourself as? Or is there like, a particular style you really aspire to?
I don't know. People more often label my playstyle than I would label my playstyle. Like I just try to follow a build order and not die. So I guess that makes me a macro player, but recently in the past month or so, I've been learning cheeses as well, just so
Hmm.
when I do enter the occasional tournament, people won't be like, "Oh, she's the macro player. She does the same build every single matchup." So yeah, I've learned to shake things up a little bit, and I think that definitely helps.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely have a reputation for being one of those kinds of people where it's like, yep, he's got that one build per matchup kind of thing, and all of a sudden being able to threaten weird stuff, right, kind of puts a chill down people when they're like, oh, am I going to see his normal thing or his other, So I think it's cool that you're gonna be making people guess like that. Another thing
It
that I'm
definitely helps.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Another thing I'm curious about is so you mentioned when we were kind of just chit chatting about playing in a tournament against one another that you were like kind of amped up and really hoping you'd win. It's interesting to me because you come across to me like as we're talking now and when I watch you ladder, you just seem so calm. And I'm just wondering, like, is it just how you carry yourself, like, or are like, because
It's
I'm
just
feeling all kinds of stuff.
it's just who I am and how I've always been. I don't know if you know, but I do stand up comedy as well, and my
Mm,
style has always been very deadpan and like observational type humor. And I don't know, I'm just naturally always like this. One of my best friends that I met in optometry school, she's actually one of the first people I met in optometry school, and it's funny, we both had like this very um, unusual first impression of each other because when she sat down next to me, she's like, "Hi, nice to meet you. My sister's getting a divorce." I'm like, "Okay." And meanwhile, her impression of me, she's like going around in our friend group. She's like, "Oh yeah, so this is how Shuyi introduced herself. Hi, I'm Shuyi. Nice to meet you." And then everyone was howling. I'm like, "Is it really that bad?" Like in my mind, I'm reacting as much as I need to.
mm,
Um, it's everyone else that's like way amping up the emotions,
yeah.
but like I might be feeling things, but I might not be showing it. So
Hmm.
I think it's just a personal thing. It's just how I am.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Good poker face, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I don't have that. So in many ways I envy that. Um so okay, jumping topics a little bit, I feel like and I guess, now I kind of maybe understand more of the backstory, but I just feel like when you came on my radar, at least as a streamer and a player, I'm like, oh my gosh, you like came out of nowhere and you're like really good and your stream is growing like crazy and you have all these Twitter followers and stuff. Like, has it felt like that to you or has it felt more like a slow ramp up?
Um, I mean, I try not to pay too much attention to the stats and stuff because there have been periods of time, especially when I started out streaming again, the first few months, 4 months ago,
Hmm.
where I was just obsessed with the numbers, and I was like going on Twitch tracker, and I was like, oh, I averaged like 32 today. Why did I average like 24 yesterday? And I was just
Mm.
like going crazy, and I was like, you know what? It's completely random. Just chill. So I don't really like to think about it too much, and ever since I stopped caring about that as much, I feel like I've had way more fun with the game and just with streaming. And recently I feel like I've built a really nice social community and people who will regularly show up. And if I'm not streaming, I'll show up at my friends' streams and support them. And it makes me feel good to see them getting views and growing as well. So it's just a really nice. I don't know. I'm just trying not to think of it too numerically, because like, what's the end goal? Maybe become a partner one day,
Mm.
but I mean, I'm not really anywhere close to that right now. But I just think it's cool that, so many people are cheering me on and wanting me to succeed in ladder. And, we're all in this journey together trying to get better at the game. So, just got to take it one day at a time.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I feel like I I couldn't capture it better than you just did. My own sort of views on and motivations on streaming and stuff. It is really, really nice to feel that sort of sense of community, right? Where it's like you go to the
Yeah.
other streams and people kind of know you, and oh yeah, I was watching you ladder the other night. It's like warm fuzzies, It just feels cozy in some way.
Oh yeah, totally. And it always amazes me how small the community is. Like, even though it feels like I've been meeting new people all the time recently, but now, like, chances are I go to anybody's stream and there's two or three names that I recognize.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow, like, you all know each other? This is kind of crazy. And then
Yep.
I'm running into people on ladder who I know, and there's like these different spheres of like friend groups. And then um and then soon you're like, wow, I feel like I recognize half of the people in diamond already. So it's a really small community.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Have you gotten any ladder kills that you were particularly excited about? Seen somebody you recognized and then trashed them?
Okay, well, just yesterday, um I did beat this person that actually gifted 5 subscriptions on my channel. So I felt kind of bad, but at the same time it's like, well, I mean, either he loses or I loses or I
Right, yep,
lose.
totally. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I haven't had that many of those, but yeah, it feels like no matter how they happen, it's always sort of funny like that. I had
Yeah.
one person right after I did the book pylon show with Neuro, and I cannon rushed the guy, and I felt so bad because I was already doing the cannon rush when he was like, "Oh, like I know you from Twitch or whatever," and I'm like, "Oh god, this person's gonna hate me forever, right?" And
Yeah.
and as they're losing, they type in chat, "You didn't recommend a book on how to hold this." I'm just like, oh no, I'm a terrible villain. So yeah, I get the sort of like guilt, but then you're right. It's like, what two people enter and only one of them is exiting, with positive MMR at
Yeah.
the end.
Oh, yeah, and especially if they're streaming too, then it's like, well, now the pressure is on. Like, I have to win because there's these two different communities watching, and
Hmm.
like, it's just such a big deal. But I think it's good to add that kind of pressure once in a while, because I feel like the more you load yourself with stressors,
Mm.
the better you're going to be able to handle more stress. And there's always going to be situations in StarCraft where there's more stress than you're prepared to handle. So, the better you are at handling all these different factors, that I feel like the better of a player you're going to be ultimately.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gosh, you like your warrior's mindset is so much better than mine. Because as you were saying that, I'm thinking like, wow, I don't know that I've ever won a game where they're streaming and I'm streaming and I know it. I think I've lost every single time that has ever happened. And it's because of the wild emotional thing that I was talking about before, right? Where it's like I'm just not on an even keel as a human.
Well, if it makes you feel better, every single time I get raided with like a huge, like 100+ person raid,
Mm,
I always lose the game that I'm in the middle of. Sometimes at the exact same moment that people are showing up. So
yep.
it's just a fact of life.
Yeah, the raid curse is definitely a real thing. I agree
Yeah.
with you. So okay, on that subject, this wasn't in my list, but it occurs to me that it's kind of a fun question. Do you enjoy getting those big grades? Is that kind of fun for you, or does it feel stressful? Like how is that?
Well, I'm never gonna complain if someone's gonna send like 500 viewers to my channel. So, I mean, it's a little bit stressful, but I mean, I've never had a bad experience from it. In my mind, it's like winning the lottery, but
Hmm.
way more likely to happen. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah, very cool. Do you sort of try to cultivate, any particular rules or culture in your chat, or is it kind of anything goes? How do you think about sort of community building?
Yeah, so I think who you are as a person and how you communicate with others and how much respect you give people says a lot about who you are, and
Mm.
I take that very seriously for myself, and so I have pretty high standards for other people too. I think it's really important, and I think this is pretty like general stuff, but most streams would have like no hate speech, no racism, homophobia, like sexism, all of that. So definitely all of that. um and I don't really take BS. Like if they're gonna be like extremely rude or targeting something or like explicitly going against my rules, like I'll just
Hmm.
ban them. Um, and I haven't had too many unpleasant experiences. I feel like, especially now that most of my chat is people I know and people I'm good friends with,
Yep.
that almost never happens anymore. Um, but every once in a while, there'll be like somebody new, and then they'll say something that's kind of like, okay, like I don't think you really know what the community is like here. And
Hmm.
if it's like a gray area, I'll kind of give them a second chance. But if it's something that's very like, whoa, that is not okay ever,
Yeah.
like I usually just ban them.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. What about backseat gaming? That's like a controversial one, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll always accept advice from people who I know, like practice partners or coaches. Um, but if they're just being relentless and just criticism after criticism with no end in sight, then it's like, okay, that's just not helpful. Because at the end of the day, like we're all human, right? If you're learning something and you're struggling, you're already feeling the pain, so you don't need someone else pointing out every single mistake you're making.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of just common sense. So like if I ever point out things in a friend stream or somebody who's streaming, I'll try to be nice about it, or not just like 10 criticisms in a row, because I don't think that's helpful for anybody.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. There's this sort of like trade-off between like their like emotional energy meter, right? Like how much HP do they have left? And then also telling them, things that they can improve, which is useful, right? But like eventually somebody can get so demoralized, particularly if you're streaming, where you're just like, oh, like I really don't need to hear more about my macro being bad. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. You always gotta like have some tact about it.
Right, right. Um, so this is again a little bit like of a touchy one, but do you feel like people backseat you more because you're a female player? Do you get any of that at all?
It's hard to say because sometimes I might assume that's the case, but then I'll
Mm,
go to like um some masters player stream who's a guy, and then they'll
hmm.
still get backseat gamed by people who are much worse than them. So I think it's just a Twitch thing. Like people always want to feel like they're adding something helpful even if they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a gender discrepancy.
Mm,
um I don't spend a lot of time in other people's streams, but even Hero Marine's stream, like he's like one of the best Terran streamers, and there will literally be people who are backseat gaming him.
yeah.
So I don't think that's really a thing that goes away if you're a guy.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Interesting. Yeah, my perception of it was I feel like I've seen it in your chat, but I mean maybe that's just, my own skewed perception. Like I think maybe it happens to you more than it happens to me. But that might be because I have a lot of bodyguards in chat shutting stuff down.
Could be. I think some days, I don't know, like I can't remember the last time where it's been a problem, but I mean, if I know someone's backseat gaming me and they have no idea what they're talking about, I kind of just ignore them. Like it doesn't really
Yeah,
bother me that much. And I think if I think it's helpful advice, I'll listen to it because I can
totally. Yeah.
always look for ways to improve.
Hmm.
But yeah, if they're just being like horrible and annoying, then obviously that's a different thing. But if they're trying to help but they have no idea what they're talking about, I'll just ignore them.
Yeah, yeah. That definitely makes sense. So, how do you think about sort of, as you're synthesizing advice, right? For me as a streamer, it can often feel like I'm getting torn in a million directions, right? It's like, one person in chat thinks I need to focus on, such and such as a weak area. Another person's like, no, you just need to spend your money. No, you're taking terrible fights, right? It's like, like, I don't know which of you is right. Maybe all of you are right. But then how do I prioritize? Like, do you find that easy to navigate, or is that kind of a struggle for you as well?
Um, well, I think it's important to always have a strong sense of what you did wrong, and and I think it's important to kind of figure that out for yourself. I usually like if I lose a game, I'll usually instantly know why I lost, or
Mm,
I'll watch the replay to know exactly what went wrong.
yeah.
I don't really look to chat for like, oh, chat, tell me what I did wrong there.
Hmm.
Like I'll kind of like rhetorically ask, oh, like what went wrong, but yeah, I think you played the game, so you probably know better than anyone in the chat what happened, and
Mm,
yeah, and if there's different advice, then I kind of just like trust myself more than the chat,
yeah.
like almost all the time, unless it's one of my coaches that I trust. But
Hmm.
I, I mean, we all know Twitch chat is just trying to be part of the party and trying to contribute, even if it makes no sense at all. Like people will give the most, like gold level players will give random advice on my stream, knowing
Hmm.
that I'm, obviously at a higher level. So I'm like,
Right.
well, I don't know what you're trying to accomplish here, but I mean, if it makes you feel important, then by all means.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. So you kind of mentioned, sort of practice partners and stuff like that a fair amount. How much time do you dedicate? Like, how do you split between, doing ladder and doing practice partner work?
hmm I think it depends on the week. Lately, I've been doing more practice partner stuff. Like if I know I'm doing a tournament match against a Protoss, for example, like ask my Protoss friends and just grind out games with them. And it's just a good strategy to just focus on one matchup, I think.
Hmm.
Um, if I'm just laddering, like I'll probably forget to do customs for like 2 weeks. So it just varies. Like if I feel like I have something I need to improve on, then I'll ask. And if sometimes if I have no idea what I'm doing, I just want to play, like I'll just do customs with whoever's in a SGSL and willing to fight. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to kind of say what I consistently do.
Sure. Yeah. More just kind of going with the flow with it, I guess.
Yeah.
So what about kind of skill differential between practice partners, right? Because like I've kind of seen this thing before where, one person will make some, big intuitive leap in their play, or maybe they grind really hard and they just like get stronger. And then it's like, oh wait, like the power balance isn't right anymore. Do you just kind of say the heck with it and do the practice anyway, even if you win or lose all of them?
Um, Most people in NSGSL that I play with are either at the same level or much better. So,
Hmm.
um, and to me, that's always a win because I feel like you should want to play with people who are better than you because then you're going to be better prepared for ladder and they're probably going to give you some advice that's actually helpful.
Hmm.
But then I have friends who are a little bit at a lower level and they want to practice and I want to be able to give back to, and it's kind of a stress-free way to practice the same build and maybe just like make sure everything's really crisp and refined. So I think either way you're benefiting from it,
Hmm.
and at the very least you're enjoying time with some friends. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
always worthwhile.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The social aspect of it, I think, is not a small thing, right? Especially as we're in a 1v1 game, and you other than if you're a streamer, you're just not getting that at all. So I think
Yeah.
it might even be more important for people who don't stream than for folks like us who do. Huh? I'd never considered that. That's really kind of neat.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, for sure, I agree. Like in a game where you're just grinding out 1v1s against strangers, it definitely helps to have that social aspect and someone to just joke with and, just something more lasting than just a ladder game.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, saying more than 6 letters in chat to the other person, right? Um, So, is there anything about streaming that you don't like? I feel like you've had such a positive, upbeat outlook on it, like this whole time that we've been talking so far.
I mean, you always get like the weird troll or someone who's like trying to diss you or put you down in some way, but
Hmm.
I feel like that's just part of being public on the internet, right? Like
Hmm.
you can have 99% positive support and 1% trolls or haters for no reason whatsoever, and that's kind of just like life, right? Because you're always going to have there's always going to be like one or two people that no matter how nice you are to them, no matter how much you want to be friends, like they just don't like you for no
Right.
reason. And and you just gotta accept it. So I don't know. I think streaming is fine, especially since I stopped caring about like my growth and numbers and analytics. Like
Hmm.
I think it's great, and seeing all these communities come together, and there's like all these different friend groups, and then they're starting to merge, and I think it's really cute. Yeah, I think I can't think of a better hobby to have during the pandemic. Honestly, really
Yeah,
happy.
that's a very good point. Yeah. Um, So, okay, you mentioned, earlier optometry school. So obviously you're, a working professional, you're working full time and then kind of streaming nights after work. Is that sort of how your schedule is?
Kind of, yeah. Well, more successful ladder sessions tend to be on weekends when I'm well rested and
Hmm.
didn't just like have a horrible day with like 15 patients. But when my brain's fresh on weekends, I definitely play better. But yeah, like weeknights, I don't know. Like I want to be able to stream in the weeknights, but usually my brain is just so spent and I don't play as well. So I'm
Hmm.
still trying to figure out like what I want to do consistently weekends or weeknights. But yeah, pretty much all my free time, like every waking second, that's not my job. Like I'm just thinking of Starcraft. I'm pretty addicted.
Yeah, very cool. So do you kind of like stream only play when you're streaming or do you do kind of some of each?
I'd say like 80% of my games are on stream just because I
Hmm.
have so little time where my brain is actually working to play StarCraft.
Yeah.
So, it's like, well, I got a stream to maintain. And so just knock them out both at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess only like some random tournament matches or customs are played offline, but almost all my games are on stream.
Hmm. Yeah, I've got a very similar mindset. It's like, okay, if I'm good enough right now to play StarCraft, I'm good enough to do it on camera too. Might as well. And it's
Yeah,
it's
and
nice
it
to
just
have a
becomes more
record.
natural.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, what was I gonna ask you? Shoot, I never lose questions. It was one that wasn't in my notes. Oh, so do you have like a consistent schedule, or are you still kind of figuring that out? Is that even something that you want, or do you rather keep it kind of freeform?
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. I feel
Hmm.
like I stream like every other weeknight and then one or both days on the weekend.
Hmm.
Almost always Friday afternoon and either Saturday or Sunday or both. And sometimes by Sunday I just get tired and don't stream
Yeah.
and just want a day like offline and under the radar. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think I stream like at least 3 days a week and I've been doing that for a while.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I mean, I think with like consistency at that level, and especially like as much sort of mental energy as you're devoting to the game, it's not surprising that like both your ability and your stream are growing. That's super cool. What
Thanks so
about?
much.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. What about hobbies outside of streaming? So you mentioned doing stand-up comedy. I guess you're probably putting the brakes on that a little bit due to the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, there's a thing such as Zoom virtual mic, like
Mm.
virtual open mics, and I joined a
Yeah.
bunch of groups, and I talked to Holly about this too, and we were gonna like watch one together because she also does stand up comedy.
Hmm.
Um, but I've just been so obsessed with StarCraft that it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I'm just like the type of person who's really obsessed with one thing at a time and wants to finish it before kind of dabbling. And I think it would be a different story if there wasn't a pandemic and if I lived in a city that actually had a comedy scene. um but just staying at home seems like the responsible thing to do right now, and Zoom open mics, as exciting as it sounds, um i I mean, I'm definitely going to try it out, just not anytime in the near future. I just have too many things I want to do right now.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense. And then is stand-up your only kind of thing outside of work in StarCraft, or do you have other things that you might pick up once you feel like you're sort of done in StarCraft?
Oh man. Well, before optometry school, I had all these hobbies and I was such a well-rounded person, and then I quit everything and now I'm trying to figure out who I am again.
Mm.
I don't know, like there are a lot of things I want to do. Get better at piano and art and learn painting and stuff like that. And yeah, I think there's so much to do. There's so much life to experience, but I just really want to get better at StarCraft right now. So, like I said, just working on one thing at a time.
Hmm. Yeah, I can totally sort of resonate with that. I'm very much that whatever that personality trait is too, where it's like I am hardcore doing this, right? And I'm like I'm on a mission. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, along those lines, then, do we need to all worry? Like, are you gonna get masters and disappear on us?
I don't think I'll disappear if I get masters. I think I'm gonna play this game for a while. It's just such an incredible, rewarding game. I've always been fascinated with it ever since I started playing it. So I don't think I'm ever gonna like quit cold turkey. I don't see why that would ever happen. Maybe if I settle down and have babies and like actually need to like do things
Yeah,
that a
sure.
responsible adult needs to do. But I mean that's not really in the picture for the next at least 5 years. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think hopefully if everything works out, I'll reach all my goals.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. So now I've kind of got like a handful of just sort of like fun ones, right? This is where we just kind of get to gush about, StarCraft in general. It's a little bit less of, me grilling you about you. Do you have a favorite pro player?
Oh man, I used to watch a lot of polls. I think that was back in like 2015 when
Hmm.
he was an active player. I was a big fan of him. Um, and now, to be honest, I'm not like super involved in the tournament scene.
Mm.
But in terms of pro players that I watch, I don't know. Hero Marine's pretty good. I like how he does commentary and he's always streaming. So that's probably the most pro player Starcraft that I'm watching.
Hmm.
But I'll usually just cheer for the Terran player whenever I'm watching like one of those events.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I totally get it. In terms of like how difficult it is to work full time, try to get better at StarCraft, stream it, and then also like stay up to date with what's happening in the pro scene. It's just like,
Yeah.
like I have constant guilt over, missed episodes of whatever, right? Tournament.
Yeah, and it's good that there's so much good content out there to watch and to learn from, but at the same time, it's like, oh man, like I'm never gonna have all the time I want to consume like all the content that this game has to offer and also play it and get better at it. So yeah, it's a real struggle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so let's see. You kind of mentioned Hero Marine as sort of your pro pick. Do you tend when you watch streams to focus more on sort of the community stuff, like we kind of were talking about earlier, where it's like, there's sort of this like crew of streamers, right? And everybody hangs out in everybody's chat and whatnot. Or do you do more of like studying people who are really, really good, or is it more of a mix?
In terms of streams I watch, I think definitely most of my time I'll watch people I know and interact with them because it's all about that social aspect, right? And
Hmm.
the part that's lacking if you only do 1v1 ladders. Um, and it's just nice, like watching people improve the whole thing and just all these friends, everybody knows each other. It's just like a party. Whereas if you're watching a pro or even like a semi-pro and you're in the chat, you don't know anybody, they're just talking to the streamer and the streamer ignores your chat. It's like, well, this is not fun. I'd rather be watching like a pre-recorded game that like
Mm,
Rotterdam's casting, right?
yeah,
So I think if they're streaming live, the whole point is to interact with them. I'd rather watch somebody that I know and I'm
hmm,
friends with.
totally. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. What about sort of stylistically, right? Is there anyone whose play you've kind of seen, whether it's a stream, a tournament match, anything like that, where you're like, oh, I wish I had that thing I wish, like my whatever unit could be like their, version of that unit.
Yeah, well, I guess in recent memory, like Beyond has just been crazy with his Terran Micro.
Hmm.
Um, Maru is always a favorite, and those classic Terran legends. Yeah, I don't. I mean, like I said, I haven't watched a lot of like pro
Sure.
players
Yeah.
recently. Probably just watch Hero Marine a lot, and everything he does is just extremely impressive. Um, and there's a couple of really good other Terran streamers like Special and Dolan's pretty good. So yeah, it's good to have all of these streamers available to learn from.
Yeah, totally. So what about other games? Would you ever consider streaming anything besides StarCraft, or is this kind of it for you?
I think this is it for me. I'm pretty much a one-trick pony when it comes to games. No other game has captured me like StarCraft has.
Hmm.
I tried to play Cyberpunk, but it just made me really nauseous.
Uh,
So, yeah, I can't even imagine what other game I would possibly want to play and stream.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I feel like for me, like I've got StarCraft and like a couple of other games where I feel like they sort of scratch that competitive itch, and also like things I'm good enough at that I would want to stream it, right? But yeah, I totally get you. It's really really tough to split your attention, and it's extra tough to ever step away from StarCraft once it kind of bites you, you know?
That's so true. It just like grabs you and pulls you down deep, and you
Hmm.
can never escape.
What about any of the sort of upcoming stuff? Like, we're gonna get a Frost Giant RTS some number of years down the road. There's, Sunspear's making a game. There's a few things that are kind of lurking out there. Would any of that interest you, like way down the road, assuming that you're not, kind of that responsible adult, raising kids kind of thing that you describe in 5 years?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna have to take a lot to peel me away from StarCraft and into
Hmm.
a whole new RTS. Honestly, it's taken me so long just to get decent at StarCraft. I feel like
Yeah.
it'd be a waste to just step away from it. So I can't see myself ever switching to a different RTS.
Hmm. Yeah. Very cool. Well, there you have it, chat. You don't need to worry about Shuyi going anywhere. Let's see. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything here because I feel like I skipped over a line at some point. Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm kind of curious, like, and you sort of answered this one, but just to like really put the focus on it. Um, I feel like everybody who takes StarCraft and takes Twitch as seriously as you do, and as some of our peer streamers do, has almost like a unique twist, right? Like they've kind of thought of like, okay, what is my angle, right? And I can kind of guess again at like maybe what your answer is gonna be. But I always love to sort of hear what you would describe it as. What is like the thing that you feel like really draws people to you specifically? Oh, nope, we lost your audio. Rip. No, we still don't have you. Oh no. Chat, it's because she didn't like the question. That's why.
Sorry about all that.
Oh, no worries. We're back, everybody. We're back. Minor technical difficulties. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, so just resetting things. Question was, everybody's got this unique angle on streaming, and you're such sort of a sort of thoughtful person, like you kind of talked about the importance of like metacognition before, right? So in your own words, what is that sort of unique, special appeal of your stream in kind of your own like how do you think of it, I guess?
Right, yeah, I think it's really important to just be a good person and be nice to everybody. And just have a positive overall attitude, like not putting yourself down and not limiting yourself in any way. I think there's already so much pressure in StarCraft to, there's so many things you need to work on. And I think a lot of us, whether we talk about it or not, sometimes wonder like, do we have it in us? Like, is there anything holding us back? And I think it's really important to just always have that positive attitude and not let anything get in your way, even if it seems like you're hitting a wall sometimes. But there's always something you can change. There's always more you can do to get better at the game. So I think probably just my attitude and just being nice to everybody. So I guess that might be my unique perspective on it.
Yeah, I would say you definitely captured a lot of the things that like drew me in to, want to hang out in your stream, right? It's like the hard work, the like clear focused mindset, the kind of stance you take where, you know, you're not saying, "Oh gosh, I'm so terrible all the time." It's like, "Yeah, there's stuff I want to work on," but kind of in, as you said earlier, like Diamond is kind of good. Like, can I just have that? Is that okay? Can we, Yeah, so very cool. And hopefully some of you folks out there watching this live or watching it on YouTube who maybe didn't know Shuyi, maybe now, you have a clue and you can go tune in next time she's live. Quit missing out. Along those lines, where can people find you? What kind of socials do you use, and what handle do you have on each?
Pretty much when it comes to my stream, just my stream and my Twitter. So
Hmm.
if you want to, I can go ahead and post
Yeah,
those
sure.
here.
Hmm.
So that's my Twitter. I don't think I use any other platform to advertise the StarCraft part of my life. So
Hmm.
um, Also, I wanted to say thank you for all the kind words, and I think a lot of the positives I consider my stream having. I think your stream has the same positive features as well. I like how you're always, you know, getting really philosophical with things and inviting these guest speakers and just getting really deep about the game, and you also have a really positive, improvement focused kind of theme to your stream, and I really respect that too. So I think it's great that there are people who can take this kind of mindset and apply it to their gameplay.
Well, thank you so much. That's really kind of you to say, and especially with as much respect as I have for you and your mindset and your playing ability, all of that really does mean a lot. So thank you so much.